Hey, what's happening everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today we are checking out and reviewing and comparing the VANKYO V630 against the V600. If you are someone who owns the V600, then you have nothing to worry about because there's no need to upgrade and you're not missing out on much. That being said, if you're looking to buy one of these guys, definitely watch this video because the results are going to surprise you in a very unexpected way. First of all, in the box you'll get the usual stuff that you get with the V600. You get the same nice carrying case. It's got a pocket on the inside, a pocket on the outside, and overall it's a pretty nicely built one. You got a good quality 3-pronged power cord that is the same one you use on your PC, the remote control with tactile buttons, and no AAA batteries included. You also get a microfiber cloth as well as a cleaning swab for whatever reason. And finally, an HDMI cable. Let's get into it. Alright, so right off the bat, this thing looks much better than the first version. It definitely has more of a modern look. That being said, we have a lens cover right down here. And just like with the last one, you cannot install the lens cover when the actual lens is protruding. And here's what the top looks like. We got a logo, keystone correction, focus adjustments, up, down, left, right, OK button, pause and play, source option, menu, and the power button. And yes, all of them are tactile. On the left side, we have the intake, and I know that because I took apart the last one. And it seems like they have a filter this time to block it from collecting any dust. Maybe get a coin and try to open it up. But once you take it out, we can see that it's a nice little mesh, and it's very handy, but again, it's just way too tight. And on the right side, we have the exhaust, SD card reader, and 2 HDMI ports. And again, there's a big fat heatsink right down here, and we'll take a look at it once we take it apart. On the bottom, we have 4 rubber feet, mounting points, as well as a front razor wheel. And finally, on the back, we have the same mesh on the front, audio out, AV in, 2 USB ports, 1 for power and 1 for data, a VGA port, and finally the standard PC plug with a built-in fuse. Now before I actually go ahead and start testing it, they have also sent me their PT20 tripod stand. So let's just quickly take a look at it, and then I'm going to go start testing it. And would you look at that, they have included a mouse pad. How nice of them. So, we got a little strap here, we got a little base. The actual tripod is inside of here, and it's a pretty okay quality one. It feels pretty cheap. That goes right on top of here. You do the quick spin. Pretty straightforward. Attach the plate to the tripod, place the included mouse pad on top, and you can either just place a projector on top, and if you want you can also attach the included straps. So anyways, with all that being said, time to go ahead and set it up, test it out, and we'll be back in just a bit. Alright, so where do I start? Here we have the projector running right over here. We have my laptop right down here, 1050 Ti gaming laptop hooked up through HDMI to the HDMI 2 port, and I've tested on HDMI 1 port, and you will see in a bit that it's now running at 60 FPS. So before we go ahead and talk more about that, let's go ahead and briefly talk about the stand. So just like on the last video, the V600, we are still using a table because the stand here isn't perfect. It is 60 Canadian or 55 US dollars. If you really want to get something, then this might be an option, but I don't highly recommend it. It's very wobbly, especially when it's at the highest level, and it definitely feels very cheap. It feels like a camera tripod from about 15 years ago. So you can probably hear, but this thing right now is pretty loud, and it's just like the last one. It is producing a lot of heat and a lot of noise, and eventually in an enclosed room, a plastic smell. And here's what it sounds like with the microphone flipped backwards. But if we go ahead and measure it, we can see that we're getting around 47 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot. Which might be quite nice for winters like right now, but I don't like the smell. Here's what it looks like with an ambient light source, and as you can see, it's not very clear, of course, because my wall here is an off-white color. Turning the lights off completely, we can see that the projector here is actually doing a pretty good job in terms of brightness. It is fairly bright at projecting an 85-inch display, which is what we have here, and that is being displayed about 3 meters away from the projector lens. Overall, not bad at all, and I could say that it does look pretty clear in the center. Like I have mentioned before, the edges here are not in focus, and I can't even see and read what it says on top. And we can see that all the edges here are having the same issue. So it is something that you should definitely keep in mind. In most cases, it shouldn't be too much of an issue, as most of the content you're going to be watching, you're going to be looking at the center of the screen. Unless of course you are playing certain games that have text on the edges, then you may encounter some issues. That is of course if you're not running into the issue that I'm currently having with this projector. And basically it's skipping frames and feels like it's running at 30 FPS. Not just that, but the input lag has been like doubled or tripled or something. It is absolutely terrible, and using a mouse with this projector is going to be a pain. Alright, so what I'm talking about here is something that is actually pretty severe. Not a whole lot of people are talking about it, and whoever actually talks about it, they kind of downplay it. And this video has been delayed just because of this issue. It does not display the right resolution, the response time is absolutely terrible, and it's running at 30 FPS. So The worst combination for anything that is in 2020. It's just bad. And no, it is not a defective unit because I did contact them and the response was, let's just say it was whack. Basically what I'm understanding from this email is that the actual hardware is just not keeping up. And what makes even less sense is that this is a newer model of the V600. The V600 did not have any of these issues. In fact, it was pretty responsive. It ran at 1080p, everything was 60 FPS, and everything was perfect in terms of actual usability. So yeah, at this point you might as well just click off the video and just get a V600, or you can actually keep watching and get a few more updated tips on the V600 itself, because I did promise in the last video that I'll be taking it apart. In fact, I did actually take it apart, but I lost the footage and I was sick at the time. And there's actually one important tip that I'll show you inside the software that I didn't know about, but someone mentioned it in their comments, and basically it makes the projector a whole lot better. So anyways, I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible. I'm just going to cut up all the pieces and put it all together and just upload it, because I've already spent way too much time on this video. So yeah, with that being said, enjoy the rest of the video, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below. Moving on. Now the settings that I have here I'm actually testing from a YouTube comment on my V600 video, and they have suggested to keep the aspect ratio on point to point. And at least what it seems like, setting it to point removes the pinkish tint that you saw with the other colors. So we go back here, we can see that the contrast levels are just all over the place. And when going back to point, we can see that the colors here are normal. They're not over exaggerated, there's no extra sharpening. Maybe it's just displaying the image as it is. So yeah, big thanks to Dan Lee for his comment. It is something I have missed in my review, but it is definitely something that you should know about. So big thanks to him. And I feel like this will also actually reduce the input lag, but I can't tell because this projector is running at 30 FPS. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Here we have the UFO test. And as you can see, although Windows and this test detect that it's running at 60 FPS, 60 Hz, it is definitely not running at that. In fact, looking at the first two options, which is 60 and 30, they look the exact same. Now personally, I don't watch soccer, but here's a 4K video of the actual projector. So it's the best quality, it's downsampling to 1080p, and it's being displayed in this projector, so we can see that it does look pretty okay. And yes, what you're hearing here is the actual built-in speaker. And the current volume level is at 60, so let's go ahead and actually push it up all the way to 100. So here's another clip, and as you can hear, the projector is not keeping up when it comes to the low end. It just can't keep up, and it ends up vibrating the whole entire projector, and it causes this vibration noise inside of it, so it doesn't sound all that great when it comes to anything that is very bassy. So here's a quick comparison between the brightness of the V600 and the V630. Now, they do claim that the V630 is slightly brighter by about 500 nits or lumens, I think. And that sounds about right because the top one, which is the V630, does look slightly brighter. Not only that, but it seems like the color is actually much better on the V630, which is quite interesting. So let's go in and actually run something through it and check it out. But before we do that, let's go ahead and actually take a look at the menus. So the first one is the exact same. We have the color modes and they're all pretty much the same. You have vivid, standard, user, all that stuff. We also have color temperature and you can adjust that to your liking. So we have user, cool, profile, all that stuff. Then we have aspect ratio, and I recommend you actually keep that to point because that stops these projectors from actually forcing themselves to oversaturate and over sharpen for whatever reason. And then we can move on to the sound profile, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick sound test. And finally, in the last tab or menu, you have the Keystone correction option that is only present in the V630. And if you take a look at the remote on the V630, it does have an extra button that the V600 remote does not have. So if we go down here and select Keystone, it gives us extra control over the actual keystone. But what both projectors do have is the vertical axis in the hardware tab on top of the projector. Anyways, these are the increments you can expect with this one, so we can see how far it can go. Alright, which really just reduces the resolution completely. And that's actually pretty insane. Yeah, I didn't expect it to go that far, but hey, why not? And here's the other side. It's like a 3D animation. And there's the vertical one. So now we have a Windows XP screensaver, so that's pretty cool. Then we also have rotation, so you can rotate the entire image. And then finally you have the auto adjust, which basically will tilt and do the vertical and the horizontal calibration automatically. I recommend having it off and doing it manually. It's not great. Let's just put everything back to where it was. So thankfully they have a reset button, which is really handy. We've already done the audio, we've done the menus, and the keystone correction. Now let's go ahead and finally take a look at the colors between the V600 and the V630 and see if there are any differences, because I do feel like the V630 has a better color profile, but let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so right off the bat we can notice there's a huge difference between the two projectors. The bottom one, which is the V600, has more of a warmer tone, while the top one has more of a cooler tone. And both settings are the exact same, so the user profile for the color, which is 50-50-50, and the preset set to standard. There shouldn't be any color difference other than the actual hardware that is inside. And it makes sense why, because they have pretty much used a different LED, the one that is slightly brighter, which is the V630. And personally, I think the V630 has much better natural looking colors, which are way more accurate. Now, while you can adjust the V600, it's not going to come out as good as the V630. There's something going for the V630, which is nice. So let's go ahead and go back to actual user settings, and let me show you how big the difference is. Here's the YouTube page, and you can see how big the difference is. And here's a Mario Kart video, and I might get copyrighted for it. Alright, enough. And here's Dead Pixel Buddy with a white background. Huge difference. Red, green, blue, yellow, and I think you guys get the idea. The black colors do look better on the V630. Now, moving on to the V600 projector, it's already taken apart. I did make a video about it, but at the time, I was sick, which is kind of ironic because now I'm sick too. Don't worry about it. So anyways, yeah, this is what it looks like. We got the power supply right here that powers the fans. Yes, it has two fans. It has one over here, blower style, which is where the majority of the noise will come from, and it's going to be the hardest part to actually replace because blower fans, by nature, are just way too damn loud. So basically what happens is you have the blower fan here, that is the intake, so it takes air from the ventilations down here, and it takes that airflow for a quick tour around the lenses and the mirror, and all the way through the power supply and into the exhaust fan. This is the other fan. It's a 90mm, I believe, and yep, there we go. Again, we need some airflow, and the only air that's coming from in this chamber is through this area, which is being assisted by the blower fan. Now, if we go ahead and take out this cover out here, we can take a look at the actual CLB light. So this is the LED that powers everything. And as you can see, it is attached to a big boy heatsink, so it still gets pretty hot. Now right here, we have the actual speaker, and we can see that the speaker here has a big, nice chamber, so that's where you get all your bass. The actual projection screen is right over here, and if you're wondering, that's what it looks like. So that is your 1080p screen right in my hands. That will project into your wall when you have a bright LED blasting into it. Of course, with a couple Fresnel lenses. We got a Fresnel lens right here. We got another lens right there that is glass. Then we have the keystone correction. That's how you adjust it right here. And then finally the mirror. And as for the LED, that's what it looks like on the inside. So it's pretty cool. Alright, so anyways, let's go ahead and take apart the V630 and I'll show you guys how to do that successfully. That is, of course, after I put back the V600. Alright, so now that it's finally put back together, let's go ahead and do a quick noise test and compare the V600 versus the V630. So here we go. Future me here, so yeah, it sounds better, but not a whole lot better. But not by much. So now that you have listened to the actual fan noise comparison, and you have listened to Future Me talking about what they think about it, well, let me show you guys what it would sound like if you actually disable the blower fan. So we got the lid open, and here we go. It will actually sound much quieter when you have the lid on. Yeah. And now this portion of the video is dedicated to those who were waiting for the modding video for the V600, which is what we have here. So basically take it apart, and what you need to take it apart is something very important, and that would be a very hard to find long screwdriver, with a small tip that is. And that's what the screws look like, so they are pretty small, but not too small. So my current idea is to actually have a fan on either sides. Basically you would cut out some slits, install a fan since there's a lot of space here, cut the cable right over here so you don't have to take apart the entire thing, because the cable here is pretty long and it goes through a bunch of things, and it's also zip tied and everything, so the best way is to actually just cut it from this end. Then you can go ahead and hot wire to one of the fans, and again cut some slits, and that should do a pretty okay job. Then you won't be so much choking this side fan. Alright, so what we have here is a much better design. That's all I can say. Which is really nice because the fan here is now getting much better ventilation. Not only that, but it's also very easy to get to and replace because now the cable is on the top and it's not going inside under the LED panel and through a bunch of holes and routes until it gets to the actual power supply, and that's a big plus. The back fan is still pretty hidden inside, but that's fine. And with that being said, guys, that is all for this video. So unfortunately, that's just how it is. The projector is not defective, it's just bad. For some reason, they thought it was good enough to actually just go ahead and sell, even though their previous model, which is the V600 on the left, was perfectly fine. It was responsive, and it was quite reusable even with a mouse, which is pretty impressive. But yeah, something happened with the V630, it's absolutely terrible, and again, initially I thought it was actually a defective unit, but it was not. And after checking out multiple different videos and Amazon reviews, as well as emailing them, I soon found out really quickly that's just how the projector is. So with that being said, we'll see what VANKYO's response is to this video. Again, I apologize for the messy video. I was planning on using this new mic that I got recently, and I was going to redo the video completely. And to be honest, this projector and review has just taken way too much out of my time. So now I have to play the catching up game and make the videos and get them out as soon as I can. But thankfully I got this new microphone, so it might make things a whole lot better. So anyways, that is all for this video. Thank you all for watching, and thanks to VANKYO. We'll see how they respond. And if you do have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.